All right, welcome back to the CoachSpeak podcast. I'm Nick Baumgart for bombhoops.com. Today I'm joined by a special guest to me anyway, 3A number 1 to Heritage Hills head coach Nate Hawkins joins me. Coach Hawkins, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Nick. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to chatting with you here for a while.
All right, so we go way back. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I coached against you in your first game that you ever coached. It was like the first game, one of the first games, and one of the first games I ever coached at North High School, coaching 8th grade. You were at Forest Park. I was at North. We were some young bucks back then. You beat me pretty good, but do you remember that?
That was fun. You know, it's funny how a relationship and a great friendship starts.
I want to say that was 15 or 16 years ago, and you've climbed your way right up. You were the head coach at Forest Park. Lots of success there. You're now at Heritage Hills. You are 148-44 all time, 84-18 at Heritage Hills. Number 1 in the state right now. You had a great team last year. You know, talk a little bit about your road to get here.
You know, I've been very blessed to be around so many other really good coaches too, as I made my way up the ranks to become a head coach. It started back with Tom Beach at Forest Park, and Tom and I had been together for a long, long time. He was my JV coach when I came through and was playing at Forest Park. It wasn't that long after that he had pursued me and asked me to become a coach in our feeder program there at Forest Park, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do, and I wanted to work my way up the chain to get the opportunity to possibly be a head coach at some point. And so I just went from middle school to freshman to from the freshman coach to the JV coach, and then as Tom got the opportunity to go to Shelbyville and be the head coach there, that opened the door at Forest Park, and then I was very fortunate to get that job. But and the biggest thing too, Nick, I think I've been blessed by so many other good coaches on my own staff that I've been around. And then also the players. I mean, that's obviously where it starts, and the players and the buy-in that I've received from them, and just their willingness to take on whatever roles have been asked of them, and just continue to get better. I mean, that's what we always have talked about. We're not necessarily worried about what's on the back of the jersey. We're more concerned with what's on the front of the jersey. And I think that all of our teams, whether it's been at Forest Park or Heritage Hills, I've really bought into that, and chemistry is so important, and our chemistry has just been really good. I think the biggest thing at Heritage Hills, this being my 5th year now, is just our culture. And you've been around the program a little bit, not necessarily this year with all the COVID restraints and everything, but in years past, you've been around our program, and you see just the energy and the positive vibes that are running rapid through that program, and our kids are excited about being a part of Heritage Hills basketball. And I think that you've seen that even with our younger teams as that are coming up through the grades right now, is our kids, they love basketball, and they want to be a part of this someday.
All right. First of all, yeah, Tom Beach is the man, you know.
Yeah, he is.
I got the opportunity to coach Sevy Beach
Mm-hmm.
as a 15-year-old in AAU, and just got to know Tom. Tom ended up at Shelbyville, like you said, and I was at Greenfield Central, which is big rival. So,
Sure.
you know, how do you instill that culture? I know Heritage Hills, just as a school, as a community, is kind of just a winning school athletic program altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just showing up isn't good enough. So how do you instill the culture, the buy-in, the chemistry, you know, because when you have talent, sometimes you can have jealousy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've been, obviously, over these 5 years here now, I mean, we've been blessed with, obviously it doesn't, I mean, you got to have talent. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you got to have talent, but you also have to have a complete buy-in. And when we talk about that, a complete buy-in, we talk about it. It starts all the way with the family, the community, and ultimately into our kids and our coaching staff. And as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, is that was one of the biggest things whenever I first got the job, and we were we were we were trying to get over the hump, and maybe change some of the ways and some of the things that we've done. But I think it all started with that team atmosphere, and making sure that everybody understood and everybody believed that as long as Heritage Hills is getting the credit, it doesn't matter what maybe how many points you score that night, how many rebounds you get that night, because we need the guys that are going to defend, the guys that are going to set the screens, the guys that are going to block out, they're going to do all the little things. Who's going to do the dirty work? Who's going to dive on the floor for loose balls, and some of that kind of thing. And then we started to fulfill some roles, really early on, and we had some young kids. In my first year, that was when Murray and Simon were freshmen.
Murray Becker and Simon Sherry.
Yeah, Murray Becker and Simon Sherry were freshmen in my first year, and they come onto the scene as a couple of young kids that were pretty talented. And Murray was ready to play right away, and Simon was playing some JV, and then he just worked and he wanted to get a crack in there. And then about around February, he started to get a little bit of time, and then and we had some really good seniors on that first team, and those guys were not jealous of the younger kids by any means. They wanted to help them, and that's what you got to have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what's happened is a lot of our kids, they're not worried whether it's a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. Is how are you going to help this basketball team? And whatever role that would be, whether that means I'm a JV kid that's got to push the guys in practice all week long, and I just think that those have been really, really key in our whole culture here at Heritage Hills, and it's turned into a really nice family atmosphere. I mean, that's one of the things before we leave practice every single day. They get it together, and it's family on three, and that's what they are. I mean, they are one big family, and that hasn't changed from that first team that I've had to this team that we've got right now. And if anything, it's only gotten better, Nick, and that's just a tribute to our kids. We're fortunate this year. We've got seven really nice seniors that really, really love this school, love this program, and they want to. I think that the way things ended last year really kind of propelled them and fueled them this year, going into this year, and then obviously having Blake back and him really developing into a really solid leader has helped as well.
Yeah, you're talking about Blake Sisley, who is headed to Evansville to play. All-state candidate, all-star candidate, Blake Sisley, 6'8" inside. We'll talk about your personnel here in a second. Let's set the scene. So last year, you graduate two of the best players to ever play in the program. Simon Sherry, who is at Evansville playing baseball, which absolutely kills my heart, and Murray Becker, who is at UIndy playing basketball. You graduate those guys, right? And that sectional that you're in, sectional 32 at Boonville, is loaded. As far, you got Bosse, Evansville Bosse in there, got Heritage Hills. Evansville Memorial won the sectional, 2 years ago?
Sure, absolutely.
So, you battled and battled and battled. I mean, you had some 20-win seasons, and just you finally win the sectional last year. And it all gets wiped out with COVID. That's tough, right? And so your team kind of changes a little bit. It goes from being more of like a guard-oriented, and not that you don't have good guards now, you do, but
yeah,
the focus every night is going to be on big Blake Sisley inside. And then you've kind of supplemented that with just a lot of really good role players.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, it all starts, and I mean, I think everybody. I mean, everybody knows. If you ask anybody about Heritage Hills, they say, "Oh yeah, Blake Sisley, he's pretty good." That's evident. I mean, Blake is, and he's only gotten better. I mean, here's a kid that started for me for 4 years, continues to get better. And the one thing that I really, really appreciate about Blake is that he doesn't get rattled. He just, and when I say that, I mean, he's coming out and getting everybody's best shot every night. I mean, our last game, we played Crawford County. They threw all kinds of different junk defenses at him. And I mean, he was getting quadruple teamed and getting this and that. And it didn't bother him. He finds the open guy, and guess what happens? Those other really good role players that you're talking about, they make shots and they do what is asked of them to do. Or he finds one of our other guys cutting to the basket because his man left him. I mean, he's just such a really good basketball player, such a good passer. I mean, there's a reason that he signed to go to the University of Evansville to play. And so there's a reason that they prioritized him. There's a reason that they really wanted him. You mentioned him being an all-state candidate, an Indiana all-star candidate. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because he's really good, and it's because he just continues to work and just continues to get better. I think he's really, really good now, Nick, but I'm going to tell you that I got a feeling you're going to call me in a few years and say, did you see Blake last night for the University of Evansville and what he did? I mean, he's just going to continue to get better because that's just the way Blake Sisley is. And very unselfish kid. You've been around him. You've seen him. I mean, he doesn't have to go get 30. I mean, he's more concerned about winning. And that's who he is. And we had one night, where I think it was early on. I think he scored 14 and had maybe 6 or 7 rebounds, and we won the game by 18. And he said that was a really nice win, wasn't it, Coach? And I said absolutely. That's the only thing he talked about. He didn't shoot the ball as well as he normally does, but and I think it was our first game of the year against North Harrison. I mean, it was just hey, we found a way. We did what we needed to do, and our other guys really cashed in. But we are a totally different team, like you said, Nick. I think last year, with the talented kids that we had around, even you threw Jake Johnson and you threw Cole Sigler in there with Simon Sherry, Murray Becker, and Blake Sisley. And that was a team that could press you, run and jump you. They could trap you. They could do a lot of different things. And this team is a team that maybe will grind you out a little bit more. They can flat out just defend you in the half court. Maybe at this juncture of the season, not a great pressing team, but a team that can definitely defend you. And it's a team that's averaging 60 points a game. That's not too bad, right? I mean, I think that we were used to maybe scoring 80 a game with the guys that we had last year. But this basketball team that we've got, they understand their roles, they know their roles, and as I've always told them from the very get-go, be the absolute best player you can be in your role, and that's exactly what every single one of these players are doing. They understand that Blake Sisley has to touch the ball. Does Blake have to score 30, 40 for us to be successful? Absolutely not. I think that's been proven right from the get-go that we've seen what some of these other guys can do, and Blake will, most time. I mean, he's averaging 22 points a game right now. I mean, he comes out there, he changes the game on both sides of the floor, and so I'm just been really, really happy with these guys, and the good thing about them is that they are not satisfied. They want to continue to get better, and they're ready to get back out on the floor starting next Friday.
Yeah, we'll get to you. You're kind of been in a quarantine situation here lately, but Blake is a kid that I know well. In fact, the first player that I ever contacted, would have been 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
When I started, kind of had no idea what I was doing. It was Blake Sisley. I know his father, Matt, who coached at Heritage Hills, I think right before you, actually.
Yep.
We met in the parking lot at Kohl's in Evansville. So, yeah, I know the Sisleys very well. He's not the only one you have. And where do we start? I got him leading the state in assists, at least as far as, what's on MaxPreps, which is what I go by now.
Last year we had the luxury with him and Simon on the floor. Both of them kind of had 2 point guards on the floor at all times last year. So, as he came through the grades, he was always their floor general, their point guard. He's great leader, Nick. I mean, you'd absolutely love Love talking to him. Very mature kid. I told our coaches one day, I said, Jake and I were talking on the side. I said, it was like talking to a 35-year-old man over there on the sideline, just the way he is. And it's so much fun. He's so much fun to coach. And I can't say enough about him. I mean, he's a kid that can make an open shot, which is what he did last year. Some of his best games last year for us were big games, were the Brownsburg, the Silver Creek, Lafayette Jeff, some of those type of games. And he always is ready to play every single night. And I can't say enough about his defense on the other end. And you were talking a little bit about him being a nice little college prospect. He is, because he'll defend, he'll handle the basketball. He's such a great facilitator. That's what he is. I mean, he's a facilitator, number one, but here's a guy that averages 7.5 points, almost 8 assists a game. I think he's missed 1 2-point shot on the season. He takes absolutely great shots every time. I mean, he never takes bad shots. He knows where the basketball's got to go. And like you said earlier, he knows when Blake needs to touch the basketball. He's kind of a calming presence out on the floor.
Have you heard from any schools on Jake?
No, I think it was in the summer. Rose Holman had kind of reached out a little bit, in that Division III. A couple coaches have kind of shot me a text. Hey, what do you think about Jake? I think, if that's something that Jake would want to do, I think he'd be a really nice Division III basketball player.
All right, moving on. JT Smallwood. God, that kid is shooting the cover off the ball, coach. Been one of your better shooters in the program for a while. Talk about Mr. Smallwood.
Here's another kid that has fulfilled his role. He knows what his role is. He's just gotten better each and every game out too. But that was a kid that had worked so hard. He is just an absolute gym rat. Spends all of his time in there. He's been shooting and shooting and shooting ever since I can remember, since I've been here. His hard work has paid off. That's all I could say. Here he goes out against Crawford County, hits 7 threes, ties the school record. And probably if his coach would have left him in the last 2 minutes of the game, he might have hit another one and probably broke it. But I didn't realize he had 7 until after the game was over with. But he really came on in that Jasper game. He hit 3 threes in that Jasper game at the Ford Center when we really needed a spark. And he stepped up. He hit some shots. And then really just carried it over. I think he's shooting 58% from the 3 right now, Nick, and he's shooting the cover off the ball. But one of the biggest things I've been most impressed with him is, and I told him, I said, if you're going to be able to play varsity basketball this year, you're going to have to be able to guard the other team's guards. And I wasn't sure if he could do that. And he's really, really done a good job with that aspect of it, and being able to guard, being able to handle the ball. He was a junior that's just continuing to get better, as he's not going to get outworked. And I'm just super proud of him. And
he's in double figures for you, Logan Krakowski.
Another one of those guys, he could shoot the basketball. I think his athleticism maybe surprises a lot of people. He is a very athletic kid, quick, nice slasher, driver. He can do that. Excellent free throw shooter. I think he's 14 for 16 on the year. He's averaging 10 points a game. He's doing what we need him to do. I continue to push him on the defensive end of the floor, because I think he could be a little bit better on that end of the floor at times. And he's another kid that we need to help us rebound a little bit and take charges. He'll dive on the floor for loose balls. Just a fun kid to coach.
Talked about 6'5" junior Alex Schaefer. Just talk briefly about Mr. Schaefer.
Great shot blocker. Best shot blocker that I've had since I've been at Heritage Hills. And when we talk about athleticism, Nick, he might be the most athletic kid that we've got on our team. He's getting over 5 rebounds a game, 7 points a game, 2 blocks a game. He is just scratching the surface too, Nick. I think, and I don't know how much bigger he'll get, but at 6'5" in 3A basketball, I think he's set himself up to have a really good junior and senior campaign here for us. He started since game 1. He gives us a lot more length and size with, now when you start talking about having Blake in there, and now you got a 6'5" kid, and then, we also got a 6'2" kid in Adam Guth that's fairly long that's in the lineup. So when you talk about Adam, here's a kid that can absolutely defend. I mean, he defends at a very high level. Strong, tough kid, football player. I mean, he'll do the dirty work. He'll dive on the floor. He blocks out every time. Does all the little things right, and he's getting 5 points a game, 5 rebounds, and
You got a lot of really good parts. You're going to add another really good part here coming up this month, January 15th. Evansville Central transfer Cameron Banks becomes eligible. Big, strong kid, tough. I know you've been really pleased with him since he's arrived. He's practicing with you. Talk a little bit about Cameron.
like you said, he's big, strong kid. He's really worked on his body. He's spent a lot of time in our weight room with Coach Zolman. He's added about 8 pounds from last season when he got here to now. But kid can shoot it. He's probably in his best in transition, coming right at you, Nick. I mean, he is such a load to just get stopped. And our varsity guards, they see it all the time in practice. Just trying to get him stopped is a big challenge, because when he wants to get to the rim, he just does. He just gets to the rim. But another athletic kid that can guard too. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest area that he'll help us at is just being able to guard. It also gives us another ball handler, and to help maybe relieve a little pressure off of Jake. We're really looking forward to seeing what Cameron can do. And it's one of those situations where I'm sure that when we start out, maybe the first couple games he'd bring him off the bench and work his way back into it, and then and then when he's ready, if that's what we need, I mean, he's going to be ready to jump in the lineup or whatever he needs to do. But he's a really neat kid. He's really worked really hard here at Heritage Hills. We've really enjoyed having him. We've got another kid, another senior that's been coming in playing a little bit. Aiden Sussenair didn't score a whole lot for us, but tough kid. He's a lot like Adam Guth. Does a lot of the little things. A lot of the little work. If you say, hey, all I need you to do is focus on playing hard, that's what he does. And we've been real happy with him. He's a senior. Played JV last year.
Your Bosse game got wiped out, which was kind of a bummer for everybody in this part of the state that was really looking forward to that one. That would have been a good one.
And depending on, it's probably going to end up having to be one of those deals if there's some kind of cancellation or, where you have to reschedule a conference game and maybe you can, throw, maybe you had an open date or they had an open date and then you can make it work. But obviously that's a game that we would really like to see happen, and we'd be very entertained in making it happen if we can do it.
All right, Heritage Hills is in. Heritage Hills Bosse as many times as possible, man.
I know. And it'll be, last year we played it. I think that was that was over at USI last year, and we had to play it on a Tuesday. And you hate to have to do that, but you'd love to see that game on a Friday, Saturday night. But it may be one of those deals where it may have to happen on a Tuesday, or who knows, it might have to happen on a Monday this year. It's just. But I think it would definitely benefit both programs, and that's why Coach Burke and I we've worked so hard to try to get this game in, and not only for our fans and stuff, but it obviously is a great game for both of our teams, and preparing for sectional.
What do you love about coaching?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just it's the kids. I mean, it just as you were talking earlier, Nick, and one of the things that makes me laugh a little bit is 15 years ago we didn't have as much gray in us as what we got now. But hey, that all goes with it, and but I just think. Just being around the kids, it just gives me so much energy being around them, and I do love it. I absolutely love it. I love watching them and seeing those guys succeed. And here's the other thing is, when someone, one of our guys need help. I'm one of the first guys to figure out what it is that we need and what are we going to do to help this kid out, and what are we going to do? I look at each and every one of them individually on a different scale, and maybe where Blake Sisley needs this, maybe Jake Johnson or Adam Guth need that, and whatever it is that they need from me, I want to be there for them, and I just love love watching them grow. And some of my former players, even the ones at Forest Park that come back. I mean, I got one on my staff right now, Drew Messmer, who played for me at Forest Park. And just seeing that and being around that and that lifelong friendship that you develop over coaching these guys and as they turn into adults it's just so much fun, Nick.
Coach Messmer's, he's a good guy to have around.
Yeah.
Talk about your staff a little bit.
Yeah, and I tell you, I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed with our staff. I mean, number one, is Drew being our varsity assistant. This is his second year. He was a JV coach at Southridge with Coach Rohr before I had offered this varsity assistant position open for Drew, and having him on board. Our kids, they absolutely love him. I mean, he's so much fun to be around. Knows the game. He knows to push the right buttons with those guys too, and he knows when they need that pat on the back and when they need to be corrected and stuff, and that's what makes him so special. And I really think Drew's going to be a really nice head coach someday, when given the right opportunity. And that's something that me and him have discussed, and some of the things we've talked about is we want to make it be the right opportunity. I think that's the biggest thing in coaching is sometimes everybody wants to be a head coach, but you need to just find the right fit for you. And then Josh Wetzel, JV coach, Josh has been around so many other coaches, played at Heritage Hills. So he played under Steve Merkel. He coached under Marty Eckelbarger, Hall of Fame coach, Matt Sisley, and now myself. I mean, so he's been around. I just can't say enough about our ex head coaches. They're all still around helping the program in any way they can. Matt's out coaching our feeder programs, just absolutely loving it. And he's got an 8th grade son that's coming through in Trent, and he's been with him all the way since 5th grade, and just absolutely having a ball with them.
I would be remiss to not mention Dave Mosby. Coach, I know you love Heritage Hills. Not like Dave.
I tell you what, Dave, man, I tell you, there's a guy right there that, him and we've got a lot of guys that are like that absolutely love it. But I tell you one thing that's nice is when I need to know a stat or I need to, or even look back amongst the years. I mean, Dave was very instrumental in helping me with this, in our locker room. I think you've been in our locker room, Nick, where we've got the old college players with their uniforms on. And,
yes,
and he was very instrumental in helping me find every one of those guys and nail all those guys down so we could get a picture and then hang it up in our locker room. Is just kind of a tribute. So, but yeah, Dave is, he's incredible. Our kids love him because you know what? He loves our kids, and he's always out there giving shouts out and we really appreciate him. I think the rest of the social media world does too, including yourself. I mean, you get maybe some of the Heritage Hills stats that you're like, whoa, hey, I didn't know that, from Dave. And so it's really nice to have somebody like him around the program and somebody that just appreciates how hard these kids work. And,
best of luck to you.
And we're just trying to get through all this stuff that we've been through right now with this quarantine deal and get back onto the floor where we all want to be right now. And because before we know it, it's going to be March and we're going to be sectional is going to be right around the corner. And so we got to just keep getting better.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get this Bosse game on the schedule. We'll start working on that today. I'll put in a phone call.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your friendship over the years. And it's just, I'm really happy to see you doing well. Again, Heritage Hills is #1 in the state in 3A. Bosse is going to be it's going to be a tough one to get through that sectional, but, and then obviously you got Silver Creek, but man, don't you love the chance? Don't you love the opportunity?
Well, I tell you what it is, the opportunity is what it's all about. And, you think about the last couple of years and even before that, you had mentioned, that 3A 32 sectional being so tough. And you think, we had some teams that were good enough at 120 some games and got knocked off by Evansville Memorial. And then, 2 years ago, we were good enough, 122 games and got beat in a really close one by Bosse. And then last year, kind of the same thing kind of happened in a really close one. We end up finding a way. We end up winning that one. And those are the games that that you always remember as a kid and playing in them for sure. I mean, there's always a select few games that you will always remember. And for those kids, whether it was win or lose, those are the kind of games that you're always going to remember. And, so to be able to go to battle against some of the better teams in the state for the opportunity to win a sectional, I think that's what it's all about. And so we're very blessed. We're very happy with what we've been able to do. And we're hoping that we can continue on that road, and hopefully we can continue to go this year and hopefully get another one.
Are you a lifer? Are you a lifer in coaching? Do you want to coach forever, or what do you want?
Everybody always tells me that that you just know when it's time. When it's time, and I know right now is not the time. I just enjoy it way too much. I enjoy being around these kids, our coaches, our community, everybody. As you mentioned earlier, I do love Heritage Hills. I love Heritage Hills a lot. Maybe not as much as Dave Mosby or some of our other guys that have been around it for a very, very long time. I've been around it for 5 years. So I appreciate everything that they've given to me. Our administration's been great to me as well. This community's been great to me. And and whenever it's time to maybe go on to the next chapter of whatever life that would be, I'm sure that I'll know when it's the time.
Last question before I let you get out of here. Say last year's team and this year's team played each other. Who wins?
Oh man, I'm not. That is a really tough question. I can't believe you would ask me that, Nick.
You know me. Come on, coach. You know me.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, they're totally different teams. I think that probably who would win would be dependent upon the pace of play.
That's 3A number 1 Heritage Hills head coach Nate Hawkins. Happy New Year. Thanks for taking your time with us, and we'll talk soon, Coach.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, Nick, and hopefully we'll see you here soon.
Nick Baumgart for the CoachSpeak podcast from bombhoops.com. Until next time.